Today, I'm going to share the story of Tina Issa, a woman who died tragically in the United States. The case was solved in a way that no one could have imagined because of all the clues that were found inside her own home, and you will be surprised how the police gathered the evidence. This case is considered an act in the name of honor, a practice unfortunately still common in some regions of the European East. However, what makes this case particularly shocking is that both Tina and her mother were Brazilians. In the early hours of November 6, 1989, Brazilian Maria Issa called 911 in the United States to report that her daughter Tina was lifeless on the living room floor. Both Maria and her Palestinian husband Zian Issa didn't speak English very well. They told the police that Tina had come home demanding $5,000 from her father, and when he said he only had $50, Tina allegedly took a knife from the kitchen and began threatening and even attacking him. Zian claimed he grabbed another knife in self-defense and in the struggle took his daughter's life. When the police arrived, they found Tina on the floor with two knives next to her. Zian and Maria had red stains on their clothes, with the father being more stained and bruised. At the time of approach, the police even took a photo of Zian inside the house, showing the stains on his clothes and hands. What caught the police's attention was the couple's lack of emotional response to the situation. They had just lost their daughter in a terrible circumstance, a family fight, yet their emotions did not reflect such a tragedy. Furthermore, one of the first things Zian said when the police arrived was, "Oh, she's there. Get her out of here quickly because I don't want to look at her face." The couple was taken to the police station to give statements. Maria was released first, but Zian was held for more hours, as the police found something strange and suspicious about his behavior in the whole scenario. However, without sufficient evidence within the maximum number of hours that they could keep a suspect in custody, which in this case is a legal limit of 8 hours, they were forced to let him go. Weeks later, the autopsy results were released, heightening the police's suspicions. Tina had several puncture wounds on her body, and it was determined that she had been immobilized during the attack. This indicated that at least 2 people had assaulted Tina, completely disproving the self-defense claim. Before delving further into the investigation, we need to understand who the family members are and the family background. Zian al-Abdin Hassan Issa was born on June 3, 1931, in the Palestine region now known as the West Bank. As a teenager, he married his cousin Fawzia, with whom he had 3 children. In the late 1950s, nearly the beginning of 1960s, he moved to Brazil temporarily on a business trip to Rondonópolis, Mato Grosso, where he met Maria Matias. Maria was born in Santa Catarina on August 10, 1943. The two married on February 6, 1962, when Zian was 30 and Maria was 17. Notably, Zian was not officially separated from his first wife. However, as far as we know, he did not reveal this to Maria until their wedding day, but it apparently did not bother her, as she seemed content to be the second wife. Zian and Maria then had 4 daughters, Aziza, Fatima, Soraya, and Palestine. This last daughter, the youngest, Palestine Zian Issa, was better known as Tina, and that is what I will call her from now on. She was born on December 3, 1972 in Mato Grosso, and she was the one who was lifeless in the family home on the night of November 1989. In the late 70s, Zian needed to return to the West Bank permanently, and Maria and her 4 daughters went with him. They all lived in the same house as Fawzia and the other children. Maria worked in the family store, while Fuatzia was responsible for cooking and taking care of the house. Apparently everyone seemed to get along well, and Maria even commented that Fuatzia was like a great friend to her. The couple, along with their 4 daughters, moved several times during the 1980s. We will understand why this happened later. They lived in New Jersey, returned to Mato Grosso in the cities of Rondonópolis and Cáceres, and then moved to Puerto Rico, first to Arecibo and then to Isabela. During this period, Zian applied for an American visa and was approved in 1987. The visa was extended to Maria and Tina, who was a 15-year-old teenager at the time. Tina's older sisters had already gotten married, in arranged marriages with Zian's relatives. In 1987, the family moved to St. Louis, Missouri, where the tragic events unfolded. In the United States, Tina excelled as an athlete at school, enjoying tennis and soccer. She often expressed her dream of joining the Air Force. Tina also helped her parents in a small grocery store that the family built, and due to their frequent relocations, she became fluent in 4 languages: Arabic, her father's language; Brazilian Portuguese, her mother's language; Spanish, and English. This linguistic ability made her invaluable in communicating with customers, as Zian and Maria struggled with English. Despite her significant contributions to the market, Tina worked practically for free, only receiving an allowance, which was smaller than she deserved. This situation saddened her and fueled her desire to find a job elsewhere to gain some independence. Living in the United States, Tina was exposed to a more liberal culture than her parents. She was a teenager eager to explore the world in ways her parents disapproved of. Although Maria was Brazilian, she had fully embraced Zian's culture after their marriage and consistently supported her husband. Tina was forbidden from going on school trips or sleeping over at friends' houses. Despite being an exemplary student who always had the best grades and even earned a full college preparatory scholarship, she was not allowed to attend because the course was in a neighboring city, and she would need to stay there occasionally. Her parents believed that a single daughter should remain at home, fearing it would embarrass the family. Tina's sisters also contributed to her distress. While we don't have many details about Aziza, the older sister, Soraya and Fatima, were known to bring terror into Tina's life. Even though they were married and living with their own families far away, they judged, envied and spoke ill of Tina, pressuring their parents to keep her at home. In January 1989, at the age of 16, Tina began dating an 18-year-old boy named Clifford Walker, who was better known as Cliff. They met at the family market because he lived in the same neighborhood. After a while, Cliff's family moved, but he still managed to see her. But there was no point in the love and passion they shared, because their relationship was not well regarded by her parents because he was black. Tina's family was extremely racist. Witnesses reported seeing Maria treat Afro-descendant customers poorly at the market. Maria even got into a physical fight with a woman, shouting and calling her derogatory names because of her skin color. Cliff was an exemplary young man. He excelled in school, consistently earning good grades like Tina. He didn't smoke or drink, and was the kind of perfect man every mother would want for their daughter. However, the fact that he was black and not from within the family meant that their potential marriage would not be an arranged one, unlike Tina's sisters. In fact, Tina had already been introduced to Zian's brother-in-law as her future husband, a man nearly 3 times her age. This caused significant friction in the family, as Tina firmly refused, saying she would not marry him. To understand the extent of the maddening control exerted by her parents, they regularly took Tina to the gynecologist to check if she was still a virgin. This case dates back to 1989, a time when such information was not as protected. Today, in modern times, we know that this information is confidential, and parents have no right to demand a medical report such as this from their daughters. However, in the 80s, this was possible as parents could demand and receive such reports, which they did. Despite this invasive scrutiny, Cliff seemed like the perfect match for Tina. In the first semester of 1989, Maria and her daughter Fatima, daughter number 3, who was visiting St. Louis, went to Tina's school to withdraw her. They openly stated their reason. Tina would finish her studies at home under the supervision of her parents, because only then would they be sure that she and Cliff wouldn't keep seeing each other. They cursed Cliff in the worst possible terms because of his skin color. The school principal even witnessed the mother and sister's outbursts, during which they also called Tina derogatory names. As they were both extremely irritated, the principal scheduled a new meeting for the following day to discuss the matter more calmly. During this meeting, the principal and other educational counselors managed to convince Maria not to withdraw Tina from school. Unfortunately, the abuse Tina suffered from her parents was not just verbal and psychological. Zian and Maria also hurt her physically. Months after this incident, Tina's friends noticed suspicious bruises on her body and reported it to the school administration. The school, obligated by law, called social services to investigate. A social worker visited the family's home but made the mistake of speaking to Tina in front of her parents. If there is a suspicion that the parents are the aggressors, the victim should not be questioned in their presence, as this can complicate the victim's situation at home. This social worker only visited Tina twice, and when Maria explained that she was considering taking Tina out of school because she was disobeying family orders, especially by dating a black boy, the social worker's comment was something like, "Yes, I can understand what you are going through because my ex-wife is also dating a black man." The only two things that this social worker did well was to reinforce to the family that Tina should stay in school. She couldn't miss classes as she was only a few days from graduating, and to suggest that they should also pay her a salary for her services she provided in the market, or allow her to look for the job she wanted. However, the social worker, it seems, did not address the physical abuse Tina was enduring because of her relationship with Cliff. In October 1989, Tina celebrated her high school graduation, and once again she was banned from leaving the house. Determined to attend this special event, she found a way to go. Her graduation date was her boyfriend Cliff, and they even took a photo together at the event. This photo is now known as Tina's last, as a scandal erupted shortly after it was taken. Somehow her parents discovered that she had snuck out to the party. Maria went to the event and forcibly dragged Tina out. The situation became increasingly more delicate for Tina every day, to the point where she wrote 2 identical notes where she stated that if something happened to her life, her parents would be to blame. She gave one of these notes in a sealed envelope to her best friend, instructing her not to open it until she felt the time was right. The other note she kept in one of the pockets of the backpack she carried every day. It's heartbreaking to think that a young woman felt the need to take such measures because she couldn't trust her parents to protect her. Tragically, her greatest fear became a reality just 2 weeks later. Tina was determined to find a job so she could earn a salary, save money, and eventually gain independence. In the first week of November 1989, she secured a job at Wendy's, a popular fast food chain in the United States, conveniently located near her apartment. On November 5th, she left a note for her parents saying, "I'm working at Wendy's. I'll be home by 11:30 p.m." and attached it to the TV in the living room. She did this to avoid another argument and to ensure her parents knew where she was. Tina left home excited for her first day of work, which tragically became her last. After her shift, Cliff was at the door waiting for her to leave so he could walk her home, and he listened to the most wonderful things that Tina said about the job, but she knew it would cause trouble at home. She told Cliff to wait outside for a while. If things get serious inside, she would come back with her backpack and never return. Cliff waited for a long time in front of the building, but he didn't hear anything strange like screams from a family fight, nor did he see Tina coming back, so he eventually went to the bus stop to catch the last bus home. However, inside the bus, he hears the sound of an ambulance, unaware that that ambulance was going to pick up his loved one's body. What happened inside is what I explained at the beginning, but I'll quickly recap it here in a little more detail. Zian called 911 claiming that, in an act of self-defense, he had killed his daughter. But here comes the part that will shock many of you. The police know exactly what happened inside because the phone was tapped and the house was bugged. These devices were not placed due to concerns about Tina's welfare, but because Zian was under investigation by the FBI. It is said that Zian received approval for an American visa so that he could stay in the country under closer surveillance by the authorities. He was suspected of being a member of a group, I can't say the name here, but to help you understand, he was part of a group that misused religion, interpreting sacred texts to brainwash people into committing acts of violence, including taking their own lives and those of innocent bystanders. In fact, Zian wasn't just any member, he was suspected of being the leader of the group considered the most dangerous at the time. So as part of the visa approval, Zian needed to inform the authorities of his residence. The FBI went there first and installed the devices in their house in 1987, and from 1987 to 1989, everything that happened inside was recorded. They accumulated approximately 7,000 hours of recording. Since conversations in the apartment were in Arabic, Portuguese, and some English, all recordings had to be translated and analysed, often with a delay of a day or two. There was no agent listening to everything in real time. The audios of Tina's last moments were not published, as they are part of federal investigation materials that are still kept under lock and key. However, transcripts of what happened inside were published. On November 6, 1989, Maria forbade Tina from going to work at the restaurant, calling her a slut. Tina argued that she needed to earn her own money to buy what she wanted and not have to beg for it all the time. Maria insisted that she had everything she needed and therefore didn't need to work. Zian then said, "You are an embarrassment to this family. I'm already tired of you. We give you a house, food and schooling, and you want independence? Women in our family marry whoever we choose for them. Your mother and I know what's best for you. To continue living in this house, you must obey our orders or face serious consequences." Tina responded, "If you're so tired of me and think I'm not good enough, just let me go." Zian then declared, "Listen very carefully, my daughter. This is your last day. Today, you will die." Zian left the room and went to the kitchen, returning seconds later with a knife. From that moment, there is no more dialogue, only screams, cries for help, and the sound of things being dropped, thrown and broken. The cries for help grew weaker, mixed with coughing until finally, there was silence. All that could be heard were footsteps around the house. Minutes later, Zian called 911. When the police and ambulance arrived, they still had no idea what had actually happened inside. The couple was taken in for questioning. Maria confirmed the story that Tina had attacked her father for not giving her the money she asked for. She claimed she didn't see exactly what happened because, after pulling Tina's hair to try to get her out of the situation, her husband and daughter got into a physical fight that she couldn't break up. Maria insisted she did not attack her daughter. Zian corroborated Maria's account, stating that she only wanted to help and that he acted in self-defense. Maria was quickly released, and Zian was released just 20 hours after the incident. Weeks later, the autopsy report was released. Tina had several small cuts in the neck area, some scratches on her arms, and an approximately 2 centimeters bruise on the top of her head. Additionally, she also had 6 stab wounds on the left side of her chest, but the cause of death was due to 2 fatal puncture wounds, one to the lung and the other the heart. The medical and forensic reports concluded that the injuries of the victim did not support the claim of self-defense. Police believe that Maria pulled Tina by her hair and they both fell to the floor, with Tina on her back, on top of her mother, while she dominated her daughter so that Zian could do what he was planning. It was later confirmed that the hair found on Tina's hands came from her mother's arm, when she probably squeezed Maria's arm in an attempt to free herself. Therefore, putting together the audio recordings from the wiretaps and the forensic reports, Zian and Maria were arrested. The trial began in October 1991, almost 2 years after the crime. Maria maintained her story to the police, claiming she was just trying to help her daughter out of the situation. She added that her only mistake was marrying Zian, a man who tragically changed her life. Zian also stuck to the version he had told the police the day he called 911, that it was all in self-defense. He also claimed that he was not racist and that he had even offered $5,000 for her to marry Cliff. Cliff also testified, denying any knowledge of a financial offer for marriage. He stated that he never had friendly contact with Tina's parents and that the few interactions he had were filled with curses and insults. Several other witnesses testified, including market customers who had seen Maria's shameful complaints about Tina. Tina's sisters also testified, but seemed to side with their parents, possibly out of fear that what happened to Tina could happen to them. Tina's friend, who had one of the copies of the note, also testified. The prosecutor compared this note with the one found in Tina's backpack, confirming its authenticity. The audio from the day of the crime was also played at the hearing, leaving everyone perplexed. In addition, audios analysed during investigations focusing on the suspicion of premeditation of the crime, which took time due to the need for translation, as I explained earlier. In August 1989, 3 months before the crime, Zian was recorded talking to a friend on the phone. He complained that Tina was not obeying him, referring to her as a burned woman, a black cow, and the only way to clean her was through blood, comparing her to a broken glass that could never be repaired. In a conversation with one of Tina's sisters, we don't know exactly which one, Zian mentioned that if Tina lost her life at his hands, he would claim self-defense by placing a knife in her hand. This is exactly what he did. When the police arrived, they found 2 knives next to Tina. He claimed one was hers and the other was his. But in reality, one was placed there after the crime. The trials did not last long. The jury's decision was reached in less than 2 months. In December 91, Zian and Maria were found guilty and sentenced to death by lethal injection. In 1993, already on death row, Maria's defense filed an appeal, and the document cited things that caught the court's attention. The appeal argued that although Maria held her daughter, she did not directly attack her, so her sentence should not be the same as the perpetrators. The court accepted her appeal for review, and her sentence was eventually changed from the death penalty to life imprisonment. In the following years, Tina's sisters gave interviews defending their parents, claiming that Zian was honourable for his actions, as Tina had dishonoured the family. This was just one point among many that indicated this was indeed an act in the name of honour, a case we already shared here on the platform in the Jassi and Mithu episode, where Jassi secretly married the boy she was in love with and not the man arranged by Uncle Badesha, and to maintain the family's honour, which for them was now dirty, Badesha hired a gang of 7 people to execute the couple. For them, this act was more honourable than having to deal with society's judgment. And as I said then, and I will repeat here, an act in the name of honour is not a justification for taking someone's life. It is a crime, and those responsible must always respond legally. The link about this case is here on the card, as well as in the description. What also stands out in Tina's case is that, although these acts in the name of honour are unfortunately still very common in some societies, Maria was Brazilian. She did not grow up in that culture and supported her husband throughout the situation. Zian was on death row, awaiting his execution date. However, 5 years and 2 months into his sentence, he died at the age of 65 due to complications from diabetes. Maria was imprisoned for nearly 25 years and died of natural causes on April 30th, 2014, at the age of 70. Unfortunately, many cases like this occur, even in Western countries like Tina's case, the United States, where the police are often not trained to identify the dangers these girls face within their own homes. Victims need specialized support and the right to change their identity if necessary, as sometimes the world is too small for those who wish to do harm. Families can follow their victims wherever they go. In the case of Jassi and Mithu, Jassi was from Canada, and her uncle found her in India. From North America, he ordered the execution of his niece and her husband in Asia. This matter is very serious. Therefore, it is crucial that this topic is not hushed up. It needs to be discussed so that professionals can be prepared to help future girls escape such situations. If you can help, please share this case.